Good evening. Good evening, everyone. It's Wednesday. It's that time of time. It's the time for the Alberta Landlord Shop Talk Show. I'm joined with a very knowledgeable and powerhouse investor up out of Edmonton, Brenda Bastell. She is replacing Chris Noble tonight. Chris is lost in the
I
bush.
can do it.
Perhaps he's at a truck rally. I don't really know. He's
Truck
not here.
route.
So Brenda is my replacement. We're gonna take your
Okay.
questions. I've queued up, Brenda, 9 good questions that I even was a little bit more organized and sent you yesterday, so we can have a great conversation about landlording. So
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
perfect. We got a few early people tuning in. Christine, and I'm gonna butcher this name, and I should. Yeah, is it Eunice? Eunice. Eunice.
Eunice.
Eunice. All right.
Hmm.
Eunice, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. We've had you on the show before. Glad to have you back. Tonight it's going to be a fun show. And yeah, we'll come right back in about after the intro. As Chris says, get a drink of your choice. I've got a little bit of buble going on, so let's enjoy the show. Yeah. All right, let's get to it. So, um, while we let people get queued up, oh, we got Mark here, first timer. Mark, welcome to the show. Fantastic. Um, how are you doing this week, Brenda?
I'm doing great. Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
So excited to have you back on. We
Yeah.
were just talking behind the scenes about masterminding. And on that note, I'm taking a big step in my personal growth and hosting my first mastermind. And actually, one of our awesome watchers or listeners, depending or both, I guess, is Christine. Christine's joined in the mastermind. By the way, Christine, I will get that invite out for Monday afternoon at 1:45 Mountain Time. And another lady that's signed up is Lisa. So I've got 2 committed individuals that want to improve their business. There's room for 3 more. So if you are interested, reach out to me. It is by invite only, so I do an interview beforehand to see if you're a right fit, because I am bringing in committed folks in a similar place in their real estate career to move forward. And I think that's really key. Brenda, you were saying that you've been mastermind for a while now. How long's that been?
Yeah, and you know what I would say about masterminding, I've done a lot of masterminding throughout my life. I've been in this a mastermind right now for about 5 years. And it's just a way to really propel you, to get you from where you are now to move up. You're surrounded with other people that are similar to you. You can feed off each other. I just think everyone should be in a mastermind. They
Cool.
really should.
Yeah, it's peer driven. Everyone brings a skill set from their life to the table that benefits other people when they're dealing with their own roadblocks. And that accountability factor to set your own goals and be held to it by the other peers in your group is such a
Yeah,
powerful tool. And I
yeah.
love it. And I'm coming on two
Yeah,
years
and
on
I
my
think
mastermind.
with a mastermind, um, you know, you are feeding off each other. And I think the longer you're in a mastermind, you really connect to these people and they really start to understand, your business, and you're really able to help each other out. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what's so great about it.
Yeah. Perfect. So we planted the seed. If this sounds like it's for you, it could be, you could
Yeah.
be anywhere really, as long as you make the times work. Because we were doing mine, this format I'm doing is online on Zoom. So come message me if it sounds like it's up your alley. And I'm happy to can carry that conversation. So I do this now. I've done it. This will be the third time in a row for our shop talk. I'm doing a 2-minute preview of the private community we've got over on Mighty Networks. It's over at albertalandlordcommunity.ca. So Brenda, I'm going to ask you a question. What's your love of technology? Do you get along with technology, or do you find it a bit abrasive?
Oh, I do find it a little abrasive,
Okay.
and I do find it a little difficult sometimes.
Okay. So this is it. I have you right on the main interface. And by the way, Brenda's had no prep on this. I just kind of told her 3 minutes to 8 o'clock that she's doing this. So she's like, okay, what do you want me to do? I'm like, just ask me a question. So Brenda, here's the interface. What stands out to you? What do you want to learn about it? You ask me a question right now. Challenge me. Make me explain something.
Challenge you. Well, okay. So first of all, how do you get to Mighty Networks? How do you even get here?
Great question. So this is the website here. It's its own little website. You can think of it like a private Facebook. I'll post this on the comments right now.
Okay.
There's the link. It's albertalandlordcommunity.ca.
Okay.
You head over there. You can sign in with a Google account, a Facebook account, or create a new account off of an email. It's really that easy. It's easy to do it. And then you get in here. And right now we've got some folks already signed in. So we've got Mr. famous Bill Biko, as Chris affectionately refers to as Uncle Bill. We've got, Brenda, you're in here right now. Perfect. Bill Fox, Geo, if I'm saying their name right. And you can click on these people. You can see the profile. And what's kind of really neat about this community is about, this platform is about driving connections while we learn a skill together, and we really propel that way. And I think it's a really beautiful marriage of learning plus community support, which I really think is the future of learning, and that's why I've landed on this platform. So you've got a news feed just like you have in Facebook that we're scrolling through. I've got a features section here. So here's our show, for example. We're live right now on the air, and it says live right here. I've got an icebreaker question, just kind of tell me, where are you coming from? Where are your rentals? What's one thing you'd love to take out of this community? If you could walk away and have one thing learned that'd make your day, what would that be? And then any other important topics I kind of post up here. And then it just comes through like a news feed like you do in Facebook. You can scroll through and see the different posts. And if you go over to the left-hand side, we've got a bunch of different options. Probably the one I find is most important is under topics. I can actually categorize the content to conversations you want to follow. So just like Facebook, you have a notification bell here, and there's also an app for it as well. You can actually choose what you get notified on. So if you come in and you are, say, well experienced, or let's say you're not experienced, and better example, you're dealing with an eviction right now, you're in the heat of the moment, you need some good information, you could turn off all the notifications and only get notified on what's important to you. So perhaps it's the evictions and RTS and this topic right here. Perhaps you want to learn more about Tenant Screen. You can turn on the different topics, and as content gets added to it and people post questions or I add in stuff in there, you'll get notified specifically on only the stuff that you're following, which is really nice because Facebook just tends to throw everything at you, which isn't really the most distraction-free way to learn about things. So that's it in a nutshell. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
Hey, I like it. Yeah. So yeah, same sort of idea as Facebook, but it can do more. I guess I see how that.
Yeah.
So are
exactly.
you would keep the Facebook, and then this is just like you have to service both of them?
Oh man, you're making me talk about what I've got planned for 2022. Okay, so sneak peek. I'm gonna be very slim. There's some very cool things coming on. I'm putting together. I've got some really cool partnerships and industry experts come in to provide some really unique content, and it's going to be in one of two locations, on Facebook or Mighty Networks. I'm going to just give you a hint. It might be on the one on the screen. It's going to be where all this information is going to be landing. It won't be on Facebook. Facebook's not going away. It's a great way for us to get discovered and found by other landlords, which is awesome. Yeah. It's how we've connected very well with so many awesome landlords. But the value add, and if you're really serious about the business, this is the place you're going to want to be in. And it's really cool. So awesome, Brenda. Thanks for playing along with. This is Mighty Networks. Ask me a question. That's our first segment. So, okay. Let me queue up my questions because I closed that window while I was doing that. I've posted a bunch, and folks, if you got questions and you're live, ask them in the chat. We'll take them on the fly. Challenge us. We're nerdy about landlording, and we want to talk about it tonight. And it's a challenging business, so let's help some folks out. And I'm just gonna get my screen back up, and I can start showing these posts. Well, there's some dead time. So 5 years mastermind. That's impressive. I like
5
that.
years.
Yeah.
Well, and before that, I'd been in other ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Curious, has there been different formats of masterminds?
Yeah, I was in one that was where you'd actually go 3 days to California on a field trip kind of thing. That was quite fun
Intense.
for 2 years. Yeah, it was good. Hey, but
Okay.
at the time, some of the so that was, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. Some of the speakers that we got were like Brenda Bastell, like he wasn't big then. And so he would just come and speak to our group at the time. It was wild. Because to think like he's really come a long way since then.
Okay, I'm gonna probably embarrass myself. I don't know who that is. Is that someone
You don't know
famous?
Brenda Bastell. Okay. Okay.
Good or bad? I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, he's a a motivational speaker.
Okay,
You Google him later.
I will. Are we talking like Tony Robbins kind of echelon level?
Yeah.
Oh,
He's like a
okay.
Tony Robbins, but he's not quite there.
But
And I think Dean
you,
Graziosi, like we had some speakers that I see now, on Facebook, on YouTube. They're killing it. So
okay.
yeah, it's interesting.
Okay, I'm gonna queue up with a question that I pre-picked, and then I saw Mark's asked a question already in our chat. Mark, you'll get the second question up here, so thank you for posting that. So first question that I picked off the Facebook in the last couple of days, getting ready for tonight's shop talk, because we are doing everything about landlording, all things fun and dandy, is Martha asked this question. Tant, I'm going to paraphrase a bit to get through the question for everyone. Let me get rid of this distraction thing there. Okay, perfect. Tents installed without authorization a security system with cameras and sensors. Walls, doors were drilled, doorbell and lock changed. When we noticed during an inspection, she apologized with a lame excuse for not checking with me before doing it and gave me a new key. Okay, so folks, by the way, one thing right there I'm going to point out quickly is the Tant is allowed to change locks in Alberta, provided that they provide you access with codes or keys to the locks. So, and she's done that. So that part's done correctly. Now, moving out after the eviction for unpaid rent, she's leaving the whole system behind saying, "We can have it," quotes, as she is doing us a favor. I don't know how these systems work, and I am wondering if it belongs to her or the company who offered the security service. We'd rather have our own lock back. How would you handle this? How about drilling holes without authorization? So that is the scoop here. Brenda, if this was you, you're stuck in this position, and you discover this on inspection, what would you be doing first?
Well, I guess the first thing I would do, I would see if that security system is usable. Because maybe the next tenant would be interested, because I have put security systems in a few of my properties. So
okay.
they are, a value add. Some people really love it. So before I'd start ripping it all out, I would find out if there's some value there. Is it worth keeping, and have the option of the new tenant taking it over? Now, if you just don't want it in there and you want it out, you have every right to want that, because she put that in without permission. But now you're going to have to chase her, and you're going to have to, it's easier said than done. You're going to have to pay, because it sounds like she's been evicted, now moving out after eviction. Yeah. So, you can't get blood from a stone, and it's very difficult. to really get collections a lot of the time. Like if they have a job, I mean, you can claim for damages, you can go through that whole process and hope that maybe you're going to recoup your losses. But
Perhaps
I
down the road.
sometimes
Yeah.
just take like the road less traveled. I'm going to make it easy. If it's a security system, I got one in my house. I mean, like they
So
didn't have to drill a whole bunch of holes. Like I think to remove
especially
them,
if they're wireless nowadays, right? So
yeah, like it's kind of minor. I think I would be more worried about collecting my rent.
right.
Um, if
Okay.
it's a keyless entry, that's kind of nice. I
Yeah.
don't know
So
if it is a
it
keyless
sounds like
entry.
I think the first point you're getting at, Brenda, is like determine the value. Does it add
Yeah,
value or amenities to your rental property? Great.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
then there you go. Bonus, keep in the property. Something you can advertise, keyless entry, right, for tenants when you're on your
yeah,
listing. Um, yeah, I think the other thing around that too is I would like to get back to the original lock. Since she is dealing with an eviction, one thing I know is pretty prudent is don't don't charge to the damage deposit you're missing rent. Take the damages first.
yeah,
Hopefully the damage deposit can cover all of the damages. If not, because with front lobby, you can register a trade line for anything that's contracted in your lease. That means rents, utilities, parking fees, anything that you've got laid out as fees in your lease. You can go without a judgment and file immediately for a trade line. That's pretty powerful.
yeah,
Now, if you've done it the other way and you collected the missing rents first and depleted the damage deposit, and then you had damages are considered subjective and they can't be charged to the trade line unless you go through RTDRS and get a judgment, and then that's
yeah,
considered what would be the right word, official or firm paperwork that front lobby then can take that paperwork and add it to the trade line. But if you want to save yourself going through a hearing, especially if the damage is less than the deposit, only subtract the damage first and then take the remainder,
yeah,
missing rents, and register a trade line, and you'll be better off with less paperwork. So
yeah,
food for thought.
yeah. You're right on that. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Let's pop that out of here. Do a bit of this, and then we'll throw Mark's question up here. So, Mark, first question: should you have an oven in a one-bedroom basement suite these days with air fryers, microwaves, instant pot? Do you even need an oven? With not having one turned, will not having one turn away good tenants?
Yes, absolutely.
And why
You
is
need
that,
an
Brenda?
oven. I used to have a basement suite, and it just had a toaster oven, a microwave, and that was challenging. I finally, because it was such a tiny place, but I finally redid the kitchen. I put a tiny oven stove, stove in with an oven, and like I get a much better quality tenant because when you don't have an oven sometimes, and people will say they'll message you, you don't have an oven. They just like they're expecting an oven.
Yeah.
So I would really consider that an oven is pretty darn important,
Yeah, it's that completed
especially during
kitchen, right?
COVID.
Oh, and Mark, you're asking the question that I actually had one queued up, and we'll add it at the same time here. Dishwasher. So that was one of the questions I queued up. Someone says, does it add value to add a dishwasher to the basement suite? Um, okay, Brenda, yeah, back to you. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, if you in a dishwasher, if it's a one bedroom, you don't really need to put a dishwasher in, I don't think. It's not, it
Good.
is going to add a little value to have that dishwasher in there. But you have to remember it's going to, you're going to have higher water bill, higher electricity bill. And, really on a one bedroom, um, how much use does a dishwasher get? Two bedrooms, and I'm putting in basement suites, I always put a dishwasher in.
Yeah,
That's just, yeah.
yeah,
And I still have some suites that don't have dishwashers.
yeah. Actually, that's a good point. So out of my 2 basement suites, one does a dishwasher and one doesn't.
Yeah.
And they're both 2 bedroom. But I think 2 things are here. So to appeal and rent out when it's competitive, having this 1 or 2 extra amenities will make a big difference. Or you're being a lot more aggressive on your rent, and typically you're going to be lower than one of your competitors. I know another question that gets frequently asked, and now we're talking about appliance amenities, is a in-suite or en-suite washer and dryer. All of my properties have a common area where the washer and dryer is shared between the top level and the bottom level.
Yeah.
I'm sure it would help me if I had a private washer and dryer per suite, but I don't. Yeah. So.
And I mean, I have a mix of those. I have a mix of in-suite laundry and shared laundry, because sometimes there is no room to have
Right.
in-suite laundry. You have no choice. So, it works both ways. Obviously it works better when you have in-suite, but there's still lots of places that I have that there's sharing laundry.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Cool. Eunice is saying, if I am doing a quality reno, does it matter if I use apartment size models versus regular size? If the smaller one makes a better look overall, I would say it doesn't matter. In fact, I don't know. Are they cheaper? So this is a good point.
Not really.
No,
They're not
and
really cheaper.
I had a really difficult time. I had a condo just outside of downtown Calgary here, and I had a tiny stove. I don't know what it's called, an apartment size stove, I guess is what it was. Super small. It was difficult to find replacement parts or find a replacement for it. It was to fit that space, which is probably why it wasn't cheaper.
Yeah, and if you're buying like a 24-inch stove, they tend to be more expensive than the 30-inch.
Yeah, because
It's
there's
like,
just less
really?
of them.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but to Eunice's point, if assuming there's not a major price difference, I would probably pick something that fits well for the space. If going bigger isn't a bigger deal, then I'd probably go with that, because replacing larger size are way more common. You can get a cheaper replacement than having to shop for that niche kind of style of apartment style size.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think you have to look at the aesthetics of it. And if you have a really small space and you can only fit in a 24-inch stove, that's totally fine, especially if it's a small unit. You don't need to have a big stove. I mean, and I have, because that little place I'm talking about, it has just a tiny refrigerator, because that's all I can fit in there.
Yeah. But that's kind of neat. It's kind of fun too, right? It's a little bit of the appeal if it's kind of like a nook kind of style kitchen. So,
Exactly.
Eunice also added with the dishwasher for a 2-bedroom, is this value over a hand washing in your experience? Yeah, I think it would. I mean, again, so buying versus renting. I learned this lesson the first year. I would renovate to buying, which is a higher standard with paint and everything. And I realized after a bunch of tenant viewings, they don't care. They come in, they know this is short term. They're here for 1, 2, 3 years. Perhaps they're students in the area, someone moving in. They just want certain things. They might, maybe it's so important to one person, they want that dishwasher. Maybe the next most important thing is in-suite laundry. Everyone's got a buying thing, or maybe it has to be 2 minutes down the road to whatever amenity is in that community. They come in and they buy specifically for a reason. So, yeah, like I said, I have a dishwasher in one and not in the other. But if you can do it, I would say get a dishwasher in. If it's more than 2 bedroom, I like your point, Brenda, about 1 bedroom. I didn't even think of that, but all that person would do is let dishes pile for 2 or 3 days and then run it. Whereas if they just stayed on cleaning the dishes, that's not too hard for one person.
But I'd say if you're doing a new renovation and you're totally renovating a basement, you should put a dishwasher in.
If you go through the efforts,
you really should put one in. Yeah.
Okay.
If it's like a 2-3 bedroom basement, definitely.
Yeah, I would get that. So D&D asks, so Mackenzie, is your laundry in the basement's tenant's living space? No. So both my properties are Russia fitted. They're 1950s, 1960s bungalow, wartime bungalows. They're about 1,100 square feet. They have a common, how would I explain this? A common area in the back where you come in from the backyard. There's a door. There's a landing there, and you go up 5 steps. You're in the main suite through another door. It's all keyless entry. And then I go down a set of stairs, and then there's a landing that's probably 6 feet long, and then there's a door off to the left, and that's where a stackable washer and dryer sit in a closet. So that common area can be accessed by both tenants at any time. Because I do make the one thing I do when I set my expectations when I bring in new tenants, I get them to pick their own laundry hours. I don't care what they want. If they want to do laundry 24/7, give her. The set of the washer and dryer is beside the wall that faces on the other side of the master bedroom. So I want to respect that tenant down there, because if they're putting like a jean or something with a belt, it's going ting, ting, ting for 45 minutes and someone's trying to sleep, that won't be good. But I make them pick their time, because then they've taken responsibility and the onus of they've picked it. It's there. So then if I ever have a problem, it's super easy for me to go back. Hey, well, you guys picked this time. I gave you guys the option to do whatever you want, and this is what you guys picked. You guys need to be accountable to the times you've picked.
Yeah.
And it's such an easier sell and conversation. Okay. So Mark is asking another question here. I'm just going to take a drink of water here.
I just gotta. Yes.
I'll play a little bit of Jeopardy music while we do this. Mark's asking, let's talk utilities, water, electricity, gas for a single family home with basement suite. Included in rent, split 60-40, have upstairs pay. Oh, I like this question. So first question, I think is more important to help answer this question is, how is the property metered? Is it dual metered? Does each suite have a separate meter, or is it 1 meter for the property? So I'm going to give Brenda the first take. Let's say you've got 2 meters on a property, and it's a 2 suite, so each suite has its own meter. Are you carrying the utilities, or are those in the tenant's?
Well, if they each have their own meter, then they're going to take care of the utilities. Most of my places have 1 meter, so I pay the utilities and I collect a flat rate from the main floor and the basement. Is it perfect? No, it's not. It's not perfect. Yeah. But I went through years of having the main floor put the utilities in their name and then collect from the basement. And then the basement wouldn't pay them on time, and then they'd have a dispute. And yeah. I'm like, and then there was a time where the utilities got cut off, and the basement suite had no utilities, and I'm like, okay, I can't do that anymore.
No.
So I just took charge of paying all the utilities and collecting from them. So, like I say, it's not perfect, because I'm in dispute with one tenant right now because their electricity was super high for 4 months. And that was in the summer. And their bills were basically triple. And so I went back to the tenants and said, hey, what's going on here with the electricity? Yeah. And so the main floor said, oh yeah, we've been putting our air conditioning on. And I said, well, the utilities are almost triple. The electricity is almost triple. And so they agreed to pay me like a certain amount over and above. But then they never paid me. And so I've been in discussion with them to get this resolved.
So is this documented then? Like you
yeah,
went to
it's
them
all
in an email?
It's all documented.
Oh, yeah.
And they had agreed to pay, and they were supposed to pay $150 extra a month, and then they weren't doing that. So you know what I mean? It's like they've been there a long time, 5 years. So I don't want to be too hard on them, but at the same time, these are the kind of things that can happen when you've got to stay on top of it. Yeah. And I just didn't catch it because I've got all kinds of other things I'm doing, and I didn't catch it until when I was doing my bookkeeping. I'm like, whoa,
this is ugly. What's going on?
Utilities so high here. But the other thing is so I track all my utilities and I can see, am I losing money? Am I making money? And I always make a little bit of money. So I'm collecting enough that sometimes because I have, quite a few properties, they, so one person, maybe they're really good with utilities. And then I've got other people that you think, God, they use a lot of water. Like, why is their water $200? So, you constantly got to be managing that kind of scenario where you have, some very good tenants, and then you've got other ones that you have to, I have a clause in my lease that I can raise the utility rates with 14 days notice. So I do
In your
have that
lease.
clause in there. Yeah.
Oh, okay, interesting. So I handle this a bit different, and I was kind of curious how we went down this track. So with 1 meter, in Mark's example here, yeah, the landlord should always have the utilities in their name. It just avoids so much drama and,
Yeah.
and
Drama.
problems.
Yeah.
Just do it that way. And you should be I take a yearly average. I look at all the last 12 months, and then I
Yeah.
add a buffer in, and then I divide it, whatever, a dollar amount between the two tenants. You
Yeah.
can pick wherever you want.
And that's pretty
based
much
on
what I do. But you
Yeah.
have to realize right now, utility rates are up. So
So
you do have to,
my January one property is $680. I was like, whoo.
yeah.
So I'm dealing with that. I'll have to go back to my tenants now. But I don't have my utilities in my lease. I pulled them out and I do a separate utilities lease. But I basically have a structure being like, I will give you 30-day notice if your numbers are bogus, and I will raise your utilities. So I'm hoping I'm creating the urgency and the need by the tenants to monitor your usage as if the utilities are in their name, because I can, in theory, raise their costs of living. So,
Yeah.
but now I haven't tested this. I haven't been through RTGRS, but I'm wondering, because I don't have my utilities inside my lease, they're on a separate contracted piece of, like, it's a separate paper contract. I'm wondering if I could dispute my utilities through RTGRS, since I'm not a part of my lease. I haven't crossed that bridge yet, so that's
Yeah.
food for thought. But yeah.
I mean, I did go to court over utilities on one place, and I did win because it's clearly in my lease what your rates are.
Is
Like
that with that ability to change that rate?
But hadn't changed them at that time. But
Okay.
so I don't know if I would have given a 14-day notice. I think, yes, I mean, it's in my lease. It says I can do that.
Yeah.
And they know they're responsible. And if it's in a reasonable amount, I mean, if you have, $500 utilities, it's, he's probably going to throw that out because that's unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I find it's usually roughly around 300 up and 200 down. My places are averaging 450 to 500, somewhere in there.
And that's who I am too.
Yeah.
Actually, pretty close
Yeah.
to that. I ran my numbers. I'm just trying to see if I can find them right now. I'll share them. If we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
So we got a bunch of questions in here. Blah blah. Currently doing inclusive, Mark. So we'll just follow up on Mark's question. Seems like less headaches, but I'm still learning this. Yeah, I would just say
Keep to
flat
it.
rate it. I don't go back every month. I give my tenants one number. It's easy for them to budget. It's
Yeah.
simple for payment, and then I just make sure there's a buffer built in, which I'd say probably buffer at 20%. But even this year, Bill Beagle just did a post there, and they removed the cap in Alberta on utilities, so they can
They
charge.
removed the cap. Holy shit.
Yeah, they're
why
right.
it's
Yeah,
high.
so that's why I think things are going up right now.
Yeah.
Just all part of the game, I
So,
guess.
yeah,
So,
you might want to lock into some rates.
yes.
Because I think
So-
it was like 16 cents or something for electricity. It's usually like 7. Like it was, yeah. And I think I had locked in somewhere around 8 at one point, and I thought that was high. But if you go on the energy website, you can see what the rates are right now. They're quite high.
So here we go. I'm just gonna. Well, let me just answer Christine.
There.
I threw a comment up. So
Oh, there
Christine
you
says,
go.
I throw 60/40, but keep it in my name and take a deposit first of the month for the utilities. I end up with 2 months by the time the statement comes in. I have to pay them. I have them pay first.
Yeah,
Okay, so
and Christine, that's what I used to do too. I used to do the 60/40, and I'd have to go to my bills and I had to give them to them. And
it just seems like
I'd
more
have to
work.
do I didn't like that. It didn't work for me. If you have just a couple of properties, that's fine. But again, I don't want all that extra work that is required when you're doing 60/40. 60/40, you've gotta give them the bills every month. And then they're
Yeah.
gonna go, well, I think it's unfair. I think the downstairs is using a lot more utilities. Like, I don't ever have that discussion with the flat rate, right? I think the flat rate is easier if you kind of know in a year what you were saying there, Mackenzie, about you take an average over the year and you put a buffer in. And you still have a clause in there because when utility rates go up, like right now,
Mm-hmm.
I need to start giving people notice because the utilities are crazy. I think my one bill, it had gone from 3,000 to 5,000, like,
Ooh,
because I
yeah.
have numerous properties. It
Oh,
jumped
it's
from,
got like a commercial or business
yeah, it was
utility
crazy.
plan. So sorry, I don't have your name there. I would encourage you to give the approval to StreamYard so I can get your name. Why do you put your utilities on a separate lease? So I did this on a separate lease because, as I understood at the time, um, I didn't think you could word it in such a way. If it was on the lease, I thought the rate was always going to be fixed. So I wanted the ability to raise my utilities with a 30-day notice to politely encourage my tenants to, mind their ducks and,
Yeah.
and, and keep their usage within normal range and not walk around in a t-shirt and shorts and -30 weather like they're sweating in Hawaii. So that's why I did that. But that's why I was asking Brenda. I was quite curious when I found out that you have that wording embedded in your lease that you can adjust on the fly. So I would be curious to see how you word that because maybe I might switch back and
Oh,
do
it's
that.
very simple. I do-
Just says I'll
It
raise your
basically
rents if you
says,
have overages or like so. What
yeah,
basically that?
if,
Okay.
if, I basically say something like, if the utility rates go up or there is increased usage, I have the ability to give a utility increase with 14 days notice.
Okay. So
And then
I
I'm gonna
will
have to prove it to them, so I'm gonna have to send them the
show them
bills
the
just to
bill.
show them.
So if you guys, here's from NMAX here in Calgary on all three properties. They're all, including my primary residence, they're all simple bungalows from the 1950s, 60s, all around 1,100 square feet, nothing too crazy. I went up 5%. That's my house because I mind my bills.
Yeah,
This is my other one. Oh, that one's hard.
wow.
The tenants have and I want to remove this. It came with the property. Whoever built the basement suite, there is a electric baseboard heater that I want to get rid of in their main area, and I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure they're using space heaters. And then I asked them about opening up the vents and having the furnace push more air in, but they said it was too hot. But there will be a conversation coming up here. My other property, this is a half duplex. Sorry, so these two are bungalows, 1950s. This one is a half duplex up and down, and it does quite well. And I did put new dual pane vinyl windows in when we purchased it back in 2017. So, and then there's all my numbers. I broke them all down right
Look at
there.
you.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
I was year over year 5% average. So that's my 2020 average. Went up. It went
Yeah.
down. No, that's not right. Hold on here. The math is good. Oh no, yeah,
You had
2020.
one place go down,
Yeah, maybe I did. Well,
399 to 312.
maybe I did my math wrong. No one's corrected me, so maybe no one's very close. And this has been up since January. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so this is the other one. It went up 15%. So I have all my numbers there. And then here's the half duplex, 970 square feet, three
Mm.
bedrooms, one bath, two bedrooms, one bath down. with 2 people living there right now. That helps too. Less usage, right? So, yeah.
Are these all shared?
Single metered?
Like you've got two units in them?
Correct. Yeah.
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 I
So
thought
here's
we
the
were
property.
saying it. Okay.
Yeah. Semi-detached. It's 3 bedrooms, 1 bath up. That's 1 unit, 2 baths down, 2 people. And it is a little bit smaller and it's newer. This one is 1950s, 1,100 square feet, 3, 1, 2, 1 down, and
Okay,
5
3.
people. So that's 3 more
5
people than the other
people.
property.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
to be fair. And then this is me. This is me and my wife and 2 kids.
You guys are very good. Look at you. $178 in August.
Oh, well, we travel a lot, so we probably don't even more around. That's just
You
like
probably won't, because I'm like,
vacancy
that's pretty
costs.
low.
Yeah, yeah. I don't have an AC. I would love one. I should probably get one. But
Yeah.
anyways, okay, I digress. Let's pop that.
But that's interesting to see.
Yeah. So again, that's on that's on albertalandlordcommunity.ca.
Okay.
Lots of good information out there.
Good stuff.
Mark's asking, can I make my own clause in the lease, such as I can
Yes.
increase the rent? Yeah. So, Mark, I'm assuming you're landlord here in Alberta. We do have the power to add our own clauses and rules to the lease. So yes, absolutely. The caveat to that is if it contravenes the Residential Tenancies Act that governs us here in Alberta, the act shall prevail. So you can't make a rule or something that is in direct conflict with the act, because, well, it won't fly. And if you do that, the rest of your lease might become in question and you look silly. So just generally don't do that.
Yeah.
One thing I know landlords do, and I do this as well, is I have lease break fees. I have fees if the rent's late, or if the rent's late every day, it's like $10 or $15. Now, if you were to go through RTS, a lot of those fees, they don't allow you to charge it, but it's a lot more like what's that rule? It's only illegal if you get caught. So if you go through RTS and you get caught, then they'll just sort it out, and it's like whatever. You don't get $50 or $100.
It's just a deterrent.
Deterrent, yes.
Deterrent.
But how often do you go through and it's a deterrent and it's a bit of a motivator to ensure that rent does get paid on time?
Yeah, I've always had a late fee in my leases, even though I know I can't collect on them. But I've always had them in there, because that definitely, when you say you need to pay me $75 because you're late.
Yeah. Okay, this one's a good one. So Bridget wrote, this seems like a bit of a silly question, but I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around this. It is the first time we've had to switch over tenants with our first rental property. We've had the same tenants for 15 years. High five to you, Bridget. That's awesome.
Wow.
That's a lot of headaches saved. Congratulations to that. So Bridget, while being experienced with 15 years, she's on literally her second pair of tenants. My question is, if the old tenant is out on March 31st and the new tenant comes in immediately on April 1st, what are some tips to make sure everything is ready with the new tenant? It's such a quick turnaround, and it really is. Actually, I'm going to throw this over to you before I'm actually curious if you do anything different here, Brenda. I don't expect there to be any major damages or anything, but just curious what others' experiences with flipping tenants on a tight, I'm going to paraphrase and add in on a tight time frame. So how do you combat this, Brenda? How do you make sure? I find generally the biggest thing that doesn't happen is tenants don't clean to the same standard in the property. Yeah. It's always cleaning.
Yeah, it's usually cleaning, because you're going to know if there's damages because you've been there, you've been, showing it. So the biggest thing is cleaning. So you just need to prepare yourself if you need to get a cleaner in at the last minute. And I tell you, most of the time you do. Like, most people are just not going to clean it to my standards. And my standard is, it needs to be in the same condition you got it when you moved in. Mm-hmm. And because I like to have everything clean, I like all the repairs done. I don't want people moving into dumps. So my expectations when they move out is the same. So, for example, this happened to me recently. This was a totally brand new suite. I just, redid the whole basement. The girl had a dog, and she left it in a room, and the dog
Oh,
did like major damage on the wall, on the door.
no.
And so, am I going to get all that fixed in a day? No, you're not. So basically, I gave myself a week to get those repairs done. Now, typically, I wouldn't do that, and to some degree, it's interfering with the rights of the landlord. I couldn't rent it for the first, the damage was so bad, like it really was. She wasn't even in there that long, 6 months. Um, but she had a bad dog, right? And
Mhm.
she didn't know how to, she finally got rid of it, but a little too late. And she didn't tell me that the dog had done that much damage to it because it chewed up. We have to replace baseboards, and we had to do all the repairs on the wall. So that's kind of an extreme example of what can happen.
Mhm.
Typically, that's not happening because, and I couldn't get in. The other issue with this place is because she had it jammed full with stuff when I was showing it, you couldn't see anything.
Oh, wow.
It was
Okay.
jammed full. It's like, oh
Oh,
my
so you
God.
had showed the property. You probably had a tenant lined up for the first.
Yeah.
You're there the day, the 30th or 31st, and you're like,
Hmm.
oh, wow, I have a
Yeah.
completely damaged bedroom out of my basement
Got a
suite.
very damaged. Yeah, yeah. But typically what's going to happen is you're going to do your move out on the 31st, and either the place is cleaned well enough or it's not. And if it's not, then you have to have that cleaner ready to go in there that day or the next morning because you have a new tenant moving in at noon. Now,
Yep.
in all my 39 years of doing this, it usually works out, right?
So you know what I do? I do something a bit different. I only use fixed leases because, of course, here in Alberta, fixed leases are the way to go. You don't
Oh, fixed list, yes.
forfeit power to the tenant. I I on that last month, instead of ending my lease on the last day of the month, I'll look at the calendar and I'll give myself 2 or 3 business days, and I'll move it, or I'll just try to give myself a 3 or 4 day window. So my lease might be from January 1st, and let's say it's a year lease, and it will end instead of being December 31st. I might do it on December 28th or something like
Oh,
that.
you
So
can do that?
why not?
I
So the
guess you
one
can.
month
I've
has
never
three
done
days
that.
short. Because
Oh,
you know how many times I've given tenants the extra week to move in because there's a vacancy.
yeah.
So it goes 2 ways. So
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
structure my
Well, that's
leases
a
with
pretty
a
good
three to
idea.
four, yeah, and I just because it's exactly what Bridget's asking. Like it's stressful for a 24-hour period to make a bunch of things work, especially if you're cleaning.
Yeah.
Perhaps you have to do a 1, 2 minor repairs, and you're juggling, and then
Hmm.
you're hoping the tent moves out in time and actually gives you
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
the actual 24
Because
hours to do the
sometimes they
things.
don't.
No, they
Yeah.
don't. So that buys me a bit of buffer. And then I've had one tenant, I've done it 6 times. One tenant's questioned me, and I just said, "Listen, I want to make sure. Same when you moved in, you had access to the property when I promised it. This just gives me the time and logistics to get things done and ensure you get a perfect property
Yeah.
when the next person moves in." And like, oh, okay.
Hmm.
And then like I'm sure you probably have a friend or an Airbnb or somewhere to stay in between that those 1 or 2 days if it's a big deal. I do try to like stagger it some way. Like it's nice when the lease ends on a Tuesday and they move out Saturday. So I make the
Yeah.
lease end on the Saturday if that's the way the month is. So anyways,
Mhm.
food for thought.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
never done
So
that.
oh, yeah, I do a different kind of thing. That's simple one. I saw this poll and I was like, oh, it's old. It's from August of last year, but someone just posted the other day about tenant insurance. So there's 2 posts on this. Thoughts on getting tenant insurance? Do you do it? Do you not do it? It's on the lease, but no enforcement, or it's on the lease. Uh, and yeah, anyways, tenant insurance. Do you do it, Brenda?
Yeah, I do it. I don't always do it perfectly, but I do it. I want it before they move in. Oh, and sometimes it just doesn't happen. So I would say, yeah, it's super. I've never had to use it ever in 39 years, tenant insurance.
Knock on wood.
Um, but I did have one tenant at one time that had uh, the heater had batteries. thermostat, and they had gone away for 2 weeks, and my pipes froze in the basement. And like in my lease, it says that you can't leave, the house unattended for a long period of time. So at the time, they ended up just like skipping out on me, and I had to deal with the frozen pipes and anyway, at a case like that, it would have been good because they would have had to cover it, but I couldn't locate them. There's, again, I wasn't going to expend a lot of energy trying to get blood from a stone. So that was just cost of doing business at that time. And it wasn't a really bad frozen pipe. It wasn't like it flooded the whole basement. It wasn't as bad as, it was kind of a minor repair. But, now I'm not a big fan of the thermostats with the batteries.
Yeah, no doubt, right? Because if it just shuts off when it dies. So, absolutely, always yes, 100% of the time, the tenants must get tenant insurance. We have a partnership with New Era Insurance, and it's pretty tech savvy and process heavy, which I like that kind of stuff. And what's really important is part of their onboarding process for the tenant to get insurance. They can do it from the phone. It takes less than 5 minutes. The one unique thing is they just need the address. They don't need to know the age of the building, the furnace, the walls, the age of the roof. They don't need to know any of that stuff.
Oh, that's good.
They have it all in the database, and they just spit out a number to the tenant based on what coverage they want for possessions. But part of that process is they give me as a landlord permission to automatically have the tenant's policy sent to me when it's ordered. So one, I get automatic paperwork emailed to me once they sign up instantly. They don't have to lift a finger. So yeah, that's good. Number two, more importantly, is I get notified at any time that policy gets canceled. So I have an early warning alert if perhaps my tenancy is going sideways halfway through the term. Maybe 6 months in, they cancel their tenant insurance, and they're perhaps planning a midnight move. I get email notified. I know what's going on, so then I can go and investigate further. And it's an opportunity to prevent.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. So really love that process.
Love that.
I'll have to go find the link somewhere, but that's why I use them. And you give basically the way it works is you give the tenant a promo code. They get a bit of a discount off the insurance, and that promo code is linked back to you as the landlord. So. Super powerful, fun stuff.
What was that service?
So the insurance broker is called New Era Insurance. I have a link. I'll have to kick out and share. Yeah. Highly recommend, because you get the paperwork automatically emailed to you. It's super fast. And the tenant can pay insurance too by credit card, which they're one of the few brokers that allow that too. And then Mr. and Mrs. Facebook user, do you guys get tenant insurance or require the tenant to get the insurance? So you can't legally, there's a whole, I've had this explained to me. I don't know exactly what, but basically the insurance, it's a liability for the insurance companies to take insurance out on a third party. The tenant has to get the insurance themselves in their own name for tenant insurance. Also, I've seen on our page, not a lot, out of my, being on it since early 2020, I've seen a handful of times where something's happened and it's been at the tenant's fault. They've been negligent. I think one tenant had a barbecue fire, and it burnt the siding off the side of the garage and a bunch of damage, right?
Yeah.
Because the landlord made the tenant get tenant insurance, his insurance policy pushed that claim to the tenant's insurance. Therefore, he didn't have to get a claim hit on his policy, and therefore his premiums never got affected. Super huge liability and backside to protect yourselves, folks. So that's really the main reason to do it, because you're protecting yourself from a possible claim. Because if they're at fault, I bet you dollars to donuts your tenant or your insurance company will go back to that tenant's policy and push that claim over. Right. So yeah. Okay, help me. Mark's asking here. Help me understand why a tenant needs insurance. And okay, we just talked about that. So I hope that explains it. Mark, give me a thumbs up here. And Christine said here, tenant insurance covers liability if something happens. Yeah, perfect. That's exactly what we just kind of nailed. Yeah, home insurance won't cover that. Yeah, well, your home insurance will still cover that, but you don't want to take a claim on your policy
Yeah.
because then one you're paying of 2,000, 5,000, whatever your deductible is, and then when you go to renew the next year, you now have a claim, and now your premiums are all going up X hundreds of dollars right
Okay.
per year. So if you can avoid that claim at any cost, that's why it's so important to have a tenant insurance. It's a big blind side. So okay, we've beat that. We're at a little, well, we started 5 minutes late, so let's do 5 minutes of overtime. If that's okay with you, Brenda, I can
Yep.
keep you 5 more minutes? Okay,
Oh, yeah,
cool.
that's fine.
I love this. I just, landlords hanging out on a Wednesday night over
All
a
those
virtual
tenant
cup of coffee.
issues.
Yeah, right?
There's so many of them.
Okay, this is a classic one. This one's easy. Brenda, I'll let you take this one. I'll read it off to you here. So let me make that ever so slightly bigger at a beautiful 250 zoom. Nicole writes, about to sign a lease with a student. Mom and dad are paying the rent but do not live there. Should at least one of them be on my lease agreement? Parents sign single key credit card background and all seems tickety boo. So you have a renter, it's a student, he or she has no rental experience, and mom and dad have taken the credit check and they come back clean. What do you do, Brenda? Do you put the mom and dad directly in the lease, or do you just not
Oh, I
take them?
put one of them on as a co-signer.
Perfect.
Just one.
And why do you do that?
Well, in case, the student turns out to be bad and does some bad stuff, doesn't pay rent, doesn't, damages the place.
Right.
And that's happened before.
So, I kicked Brenda out, wrong screen. So you put one of the parents, they just, as if they're living in the house, they sign the lease
if they're
exactly the
living there,
same.
they're just co-signing.
And what happens if this student does something silly and causes it doesn't pay
Well,
rent?
you go after the parent.
Perfect,
And
as
they're
if they're a tenant
responsible.
on the property.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I would put both parents on. Maybe I'm just being greedy, but that's two bank
Yeah.
accounts to go after instead
Yeah.
of one. But
Yeah, and if
and
you
I
want
tell
to
you,
do that, yeah. Again, I think that's overkill. I think if you just have one of them that has strong credit, that's all you need. Because don't forget, you're going to have to serve all three of them then.
oh, that is good. Oh,
Yeah.
so
Like
legit.
if you
I
ever
didn't
go to
think of
court,
that.
you're going to have
Oh,
to
yeah.
serve all three of them.
Ah, yeah, good to know. Okay. Well, okay. If they got really strong credit, I mean, if it's a parent helping out their kid,
Yeah.
you'll know
And
that.
typically those are good.
Yeah,
I've had good experiences with that situation.
it's probably one or two phone calls to quickly remedy an issue with
Just,
mom and dad.
yeah.
Yeah.
You
So
call,
it's
you
actually
call mom and say, hey, there's a little problem here.
yeah. So yeah, Johnny hasn't paid his rent, and I just thought I'd check in with you. Do you know if there's anything going on? Oh, no problem. We'll be in contact tonight. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Exactly.
Okay, no problem, Mark. You got it. That's awesome. Okay, well, man, I last time we did the show, I didn't have enough content, and we burned through the questions. This time, I have 5 questions left over. We'll wrap it up. I'll save these juicy tidbits
Save them
probably
for another
the
day.
next one. Yeah, so we had tenant insurance. What was the other one? Lyanne asked 3. I picked up. Anything really worth? This was an interesting one. I'm gonna challenge this one to you. So Lyanne wrote here, how many late rent payments do the tenants have? Okay, let me try this again. How many late rent payments do the tenants have before I can submit an eviction to RTDRS?
Well, that would be at the discretion of the, what are they called now? They have a name. They're
TDO. I had a
I
trivia
know.
Saturday. Tenancy dispute officer, because again, super
tenancy
cool here.
dispute
I know the
officer.
things.
It's kind of a little bit up to him, so it has to be, something reasonable. I have tenants paying late all the time. Yeah, it's kind of the name of the game. I wouldn't get too, okay, if there's other things that the tenants are doing and you need to get rid of them.
Yeah.
And being chronically late is one of them, right? If they're chronically late all the time, you might want to do, okay, it's been 3 months and they're late every month, and you
Yeah.
just don't want to put up with that, you can file with the RT duress. Um, it may give them the wake-up call that, hey, this landlord is not going to put up with that. Um, I tend to be lenient. It really depends on the person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've had tenants that they pay late, maybe, okay, they pay January and oops, March, they're late by a day or two. And then,
Mm-hmm.
July, they're late a day or two. I give people, I've got
Yeah,
one guy
I'm
who's
not
late
gonna.
all the time. He's
Yeah, I'm
just,
not gonna pick on that.
so you have to decide for yourself, what are your rules when it comes to tenants paying late? Um, I find there's like, it really depends. If they're always paying late rent, like all the time, then, nip it in the bud. If it's an occasional thing. And, during COVID, that was kind of happening. People
Yep.
were struggling. So I was giving them a break. But if, if they've developed a bad habit and you don't want to put up with it, yeah, you can file with the RTVRS,
Yeah,
and
I would. Yeah, I don't think there's a number really, but I
no,
think you
there
do
isn't.
need to show a track record that they are breaking or breaching your lease every month with consistently late rent. So you can't just go on the first month and be like, oh, this tenant is bad. I'm
No,
filing right now. That won't fly. You won't get very far.
yeah,
And but if they're perhaps difficult to communicate with and other pain points you're dealing with, and this is just the tip of the iceberg, then yes, go after 2 3 months, collect that. You need that paper trail, communicate with them every month saying this is inappropriate, this is after the first, sorry Mr. and Mrs. Tant, I have not seen your rent yet, when can I expect it, and drive that. To your point, Brenda, I've got one tenant that every once in a while they get tight for cash. I get a text 1 or 2 days before saying, hey, Mackenzie, I've got 900 or $1,000. I can get the other $295 next Friday my paycheck. And sure enough, they give me this payment plan. They've communicated beforehand, and that happens.
yeah,
So I will never ever have a problem with that because I know what's going on. It's when I'm in the dark I don't like.
yeah, exactly.
Right. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, let's wrap up the show. Brenda, you're a fantastic co-host. I really appreciated it.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, it was fun.
It
We
was
had
fun.
some good, yeah, we had lots of questions tonight, folks. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out and being cool. Landlords on a Wednesday night. This is what we do. Just talk about landlording on the only show dedicated to landlording Alberta, the Alberta Landlord Shop Talk Show, folks. Have a great night. We'll see you next Wednesday, same time at 8 o'clock. Bye bye.
See ya.